At this place in history, we are, if not on, then very close to the Castleton-Fairhaven town line with Steve Perkins, Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society. Steve, what brings us here this week?
Yeah, so Mike, we're right on Scotch Hill, which is the site of the first slate quarry in western Vermont. And like you said, on the border of Castleton and Fairhaven, we're right at the northern end of what's called the Slate Valley or the Slate Belt, where one finds in the Taconic mountain range this great outgrowth of the rock slate that we know. I think to learn more about this, what we need to do is go down to the Slate Valley Museum in Granville, New York, right across the border, and talk to Sarah Kijowski, who is the executive director down there. What is slate?
Slate, contrary to what most people believe, is actually a metamorphic rock. It's not a sedimentary rock. It's formed from a sedimentary rock, shale, which originally settled in the valley. Over millions of years in plate tectonics, mountain building activities, everything was sort of squished with tremendous heat and pressure. Basically baked the stone into a metamorphic rock, and that's what we know as slate today.
We can see now a very visible sign then of how the process starts, but how is it excavated?
Earliest on was this machine right here. They would, blast holes into the ground, and people would be working down in the bottom of these pits, extracting the stone, and they would hoist them out. Then that really was the way of the industry until World War II ended, and we had a lot of surplus machinery that became available. And people came in to the Slate Valley and started purchasing that equipment, dump trucks, forklifts, things like that, and that's when they were building roads down into the quarries, and they could begin to truck the slate out of the quarry. The market's not really big enough to use all of the waste. So when you drive around the valley, you'll still see, massive piles of waste, or they call them rubbish piles. Originally, the shanties were located, multiple of them, around the quarries. So as they'd work in the quarries to get the big chunks of slate out of the ground, they work it gradually into smaller and smaller chunks. Eventually it makes its way here as a block. This is where it's split by hand using hammer and chisel, where the edges are trimmed using like the trimming machine over there, and this machine here is where the holes would be punched into it for application onto a roof. So as time went on, the technology improved. We used the heavier equipment I mentioned earlier at post-World War II, trucks and things like that. They trucked it all to a centralized location, which is a mill.
Got it.
So that's where we are today. Most places have a mill. So in addition to slate roofing, which has been the mainstay, as I mentioned, and flooring and things like that, slate has also been used artistically in things like carving. Like we have a nice example of a contemporary bench here, as well as lots of like novelty items, whether historic or modern, things like piggy banks, little decorative clocks, slate pool tables, things like that. So it's really, they've tried to use it as many places as they can. Sometimes it seems a little hidden, but it has lots of different uses.
Including chalkboards, the old expression, wiping the slate clean. It comes
That's right.
from somewhere.
That's right.
Carving out a piece of the Slate Valley at this place in history.